Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's children's sermon. It's good to be able to be with all of you, even though we have to keep being together across the internet here. But I wanted to share a story with you. Well, the lesson that we have today in church is kind of tough for people to think about. It's a story that Jesus told about an owner of a big field who lent it out to some people and said, well, I know that you need to grow some crops and that you need to feed your families. Why don't you use this field? And at the end of the harvest, you can give some back to me, and that'll be the deal that we have. Well, the people who used the land grew crops. They came up really wonderful. And then it came time to send some back to the owner, and the owner sent a servant over to the field to get it, and they beat the servant up. They decided it's our stuff. We worked for it all, forgetting that they would have never had any of it without the owner. Well, the owner sent some more servants, and they beat them up and sent them home, and one of them they even killed. And finally, the owner thought, well, I'll send my son, and they'll listen to my son. And so the owner sent his son to the field, and they killed him too, thinking that now the son is dead, this field will be ours forever. And the story ends with kind of a harsh sort of thing that says, what will the owner do? Well, he'll send people there to kill these people and take the field back. So what's Jesus trying to say with this story? Well, it's kind of a hard story because we are all like the people who borrowed the field from the owner. God has given us all kinds of stuff, our clothes, our family, our food, everything that we have. God is really the owner of everything in the world, and yet sometimes we treat it like it's ours. Think about how we talk about things. My family, my house, my stuff. But really, it's all God's. And God lets us have it to enjoy, certainly for ourselves, but we also are to give something back to God. But how do we do that? How do you give something back to God? God doesn't seem to be right here in front of me. Well, I do have a story that maybe will help you understand it. It's a story I've told before. You all know this story. It's about three soldiers who were out protecting people. That's how they saw that they should use their lives to care for other people. And so they were going home, and they stopped in this village and asked for something to eat. But every house they went to, the people said, no, we haven't got enough. This is my food. This is my stuff. I need to hang on to it. So finally, one of the soldiers got an idea. He got a rock, and he put it in a pan. And he filled the pan with water. And I'm going over here on the side where you can't see me. He got the pan back, and he put it on the fire and started to boil it. Well, all the people in the town they didn't know what this guy was doing. What, a rock and boiling water? And he said, well, this is a magic rock. It makes stone soup, which is really wonderful to eat. And the people were all really kind of interested in this by now. And so the water was boiling, starting to get hot. And he said, this is going to be really great soup, and we're willing to share it all with you. But what would make it even better is if we had some vegetables to put in it. Well, one woman ran home and she said, well, I have some carrots. And she dropped those into the pan with everything else. Someone else said, well, I have some onions at home, and went home and got a piece of the onion and dropped it in the soup. So now we have some vegetables boiling in there with a stone and some water. And the person said, oh, this is going to be so great, and we're willing to share it with all of you. But what would make it even better is if we had some salt and pepper. So somebody ran home. They had some salt and pepper at home, and they dumped it in the soup. So now it's boiling, and it's starting to smell not too bad. The guy says, well, we're willing to share all of this with you, but what would make it really great is if we had some meat. So someone ran home and got some roast beef and the bone that was in it, and they dropped it in the pan with everything else, and it kept boiling and boiling. It was smelling better and better. Well, you all know what's going on here, don't you? When you put meat and a meat bone and some vegetables, some salt and pepper, a few other things in a pan of water, you get soup. And so finally, when it was all done, they shared with the whole town. Everybody thought it was so wonderful. And they thought, what a miracle that all this came from a stone. And then the soldier said, no, it didn't come from the stone at all. It came because you were willing to let go of what you thought was yours to share with everyone else. So you want to know how to give back to the owner what the owner, what we think the owner really should have back is to share it with one another. Because you see, we all are God's, all of us. And what God really wants is for us to share what we have, what God has given us, with others who may need something as well, who are close to us. That way we become better at being those people who God lends everything to, certainly to use for ourselves, but also to give back. Always give back some of it. Because you see, the interesting thing about that story in the Bible is it ends with the owner sending somebody to kill all these terrible people, but that's not what God does. God instead sends the Son, the most precious part of God's life to us, shares it with us so that we can live. And it's an example to all of us of how to live our lives as people who God has given so much to by sharing it with one another. May you truly enjoy everything God has put into your life, but remember also to share it. Share it in love with the people around you. Have a wonderful week.